games to talk about here, and I'm joined by Chris Randone, and rightfully so on the finale of The Bachelorette tonight.
Oh my God, it is tonight, isn't it?
Yeah, man, I'm
Man, way to throw
excited.
that in there. I totally forgot all about that.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be a good one. So, did you watch last night?
Yeah, man, I did. To be honest with you, I was kind of not feeling it actually. To be honest, it's just it wasn't as exciting. Tonight will be good because the world will get to see the guy who's been all over the tabloids. So it's going to be interesting. I kind of like seeing that type of stuff.
Do you know what happens? If you do, don't tell me. But do you know what
Yeah.
kind of happens? You do?
Well, tonight's live, just like last night. So I know what has taken place so
Okay.
far. It'll be great for everyone to kind of see it unfold firsthand.
Yeah, good to hear. Good to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've got a clear. I mean, I don't want to say too much, but I got a clear guy that I'm looking or hoping at least that wins. But I don't know how it's gonna play out. So, anyways, it looks like we've got a bunch of people in here right now, and we've got 14 games. So right away, I always forget to do this, but if you guys want to hit us with a like right away, that would be greatly appreciated. Makes us look good, helps us continue to push out free content like this. Um, Promo code is live before lock, and you can use that to get 50% off your first month of Osmo.com premium packages, any one of your choosing, as it is a monthly package. All right, this is going to be a good one. I'm pretty excited to talk about this slate. I'm guessing you are as well, Chris, because there's some really intriguing ownership options tonight. And I don't know if you saw earlier, but we had Drew Smiley at over 40% ownership on DraftKings, and he's come down quite a bit. He's actually kind of cut that in half. Um, but is there anything that sticks out to you as far as these top guys? So right now we've got Canning, Musgrove, AJ Pollock, or I'm sorry, not Pollock, and Syndergaard, and then Smiley all over 20% ownership on DraftKings. Similar on Yahoo, but with the pricing being a little bit different. Obviously, things change over there. On DraftKings tonight, which one of these guys is kind of catching your eye, and which ones are you avoiding?
Uh, Smiley was really interesting seeing him that high. To see him drop that much already kind of leads me to believe that people are not as confident in Smiley. I mean, as they shouldn't. But Giants are not that great against lefties, and but I mean, it's great ballpark weather, great ballpark for hitting. So I can understand that. Noah Syndergaard is interesting. Um, Really highly owned on DraftKings, in my opinion. I think Adam made a great point. I mean, if you're willing to pay 10-3 for someone who is not necessarily, even the fourth best option on this slate, it really doesn't make sense. Yes, the White Sox are not the best hitting team, and there's a lot of strikeout potential there too, but there's a lot of different variables tonight. I mean, he could get traded, he could get pulled at any moment, he still might get scratched. So yeah, for me, I just feel like at 10-3, anything over 10K with him, it's just not something I'm interested in.
Yeah, I think that's a completely fair take on Syndergaard, especially on DraftKings. I mean, first of all, I wasn't very interested in him right away. I was glad to see he didn't project as one of the better plays in the top tier of pitching on DraftKings, because that's where I like to play a lot of my MME volume, and so I wasn't getting to him just organically. And then you throw in that he's likely to get traded in the next few days, and who knows? It could be in the middle of the start. It could be right before the game starts, and he could be pulled, and you could be stuck with a zero from your 10-3 pitcher. Same thing on FanDuel. He's expensive over there, and then same thing on Yahoo. So I'm just going with the projections tonight. I will end up with a few shares of Syndergaard, I'm sure, but it's just in order to get different lineup constructions because honestly, I don't really like the top tier of pitching much at all. I mean, so if you're not going to a ton of Syndergaard, or if you think that that's ownership's interesting, right now we have him at just over 20%. Do you think you're going to be pivoting on DraftKings at least to either a Verlander or Shane Bieber, both in pretty tough spots with some decent implied totals going against them here?
Yeah, that's a great point. Verlander's 11.4, but he does give up home runs, and he is going against the Cleveland team that doesn't necessarily strike out a lot. And I mean, if they're going to be putting the ball in play, this could be trouble as far as from a value standpoint at 11.4K. I just don't like the matchup. And I think the same thing with Bieber. Houston doesn't strike out a lot as well. Very good against right-hand pitching. I just feel like that game is too hard to figure out. And if there's high price points involved, I just kind of want to shy away from it. However, though, I do like Verlander on FanDuel, and that's specifically because he does have that strikeout upside. Obviously, he'll get there. But if he does have an amazing game, he's not projected to be highly owned. And if you can differentiate yourself in maybe like a single entry tournament where maybe he's not projected to be highly as owned, that could separate yourself. So maybe FanDuel, I could see myself rocking with Verlander. But on DK, I think you made a great point. Kind of like in guys in the lower middle tier.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to be just making a living, hopefully, in that lower and middle tier on DraftKings. You bring up a good point about FanDuel with Verlander. I mean, one pitcher site, he could easily, even if he doesn't have his best game, he's just talented enough where he could be the raw point leader. And if all of a sudden you get a cheap stack that does well, you might be sitting in a pretty good spot with Verlander, who probably won't be the best value on any site tonight, but he could pace everyone else in terms of raw points. So that's a pretty good call there. What about another guy in this 10K range? Morton is 10K on FanDuel. He is 10.9 on DraftKings. Going up against the Red Sox, 5.1 implied total there. He's not getting much ownership at all. But is this one where you're betting on talent, or is he kind of one that's also missing the cut for you here?
Morton, great pitcher. Like you said it earlier, I mean, he's basically having a Cy Young year. He's just been incredible. The only thing that scares me, though, in this matchup is I feel like Boston's found a rhythm with their bats as of late. Exploded over the weekend against the Yankees. Not saying that they're going to do that to Morton, but it's just, 5.1 run implied total. It's better than a lot of other run implied totals on this slate. They are at home. The wind's blowing out to left center. So for me personally, I just like too many guys in the lower tier that we're probably going to talk about here shortly. And that price point at 10.9K, I just don't see myself getting to it as much. Maybe a few shares, but not over the field or equal to the field.
Yeah, man, I wasn't getting any of Morton. I was barely getting like any of these other guys in this 10K range. I was actually getting the Syndergaard the most, but when you factor in his ownership, I mean, he's someone that I'm not getting close to the field on. Verlander either, at least on DraftKings, and then on FanDuel, I'm even finding myself getting to that mid-tier quite a bit, where I'm usually trying to pay up and take all these studs. The matchups for the studs tonight are just really, really tough, which is a little bit annoying that we don't get at least one or two of these guys to be looking to play across the board. So the chalk pitcher, the number one chalk pitcher right now, because there are a few that are just under 30%. What are you doing with Griffin Canning going up against Detroit? We know Detroit is one of the better matchups in all of the MLB for a right-handed pitcher. Canning's got really awesome strikeout stuff when things are working. If you guys read the deep dive today, or listened to the deeper dive, those guys talked about how he's been inconsistent, and that's because he's young. But going up against Detroit here, 26% K rate versus righties. Is Canning your number one guy tonight?
I don't know if he's number one, but he's just so hard to pass up. I feel like he's priced at a great price point. Detroit strikes out over 27% of the time against righties on the road. He has been inconsistent, but I'll take an inconsistent pitcher with a high strikeout upside matchup against a team that does strike out a lot. And that's just the risk I'm going to take because of that price point. If he was priced higher, I think that I would have to kind of change and look at it in a different light. But being in that middle 7K range, especially on DraftKings, great for SP1 or SP2. So still gives you flexibility too for roster construction with salary relief to other maybe big bats that you want to look at.
Yeah, so many good big bats tonight. And you mentioned the price on DraftKings. He's talented and under 8K here in as good of a matchup as you can ask, basically, for a right-handed pitcher against Detroit. And it's not like they're rolling out a quality lineup. I mean, at this point, a fringe AAA lineup like Dixon, Rogers, Reyes, Mercer at the bottom is really, really appealing for a guy with good strikeout stuff and under 8K. So I'm starting a lot of my teams with Canning as my SP1 and then either going to another mid-tier guy or getting really dirty down in this low tier. Just again, some disgusting names, but that's kind of the nature of the Coors slate for me. A lot of these times when one or both of the stacks is going a little bit underowned.
Another ridiculous, another take I want to say that is probably ridiculous, but they have a 3.6 run implied total tonight. The Tigers do, and I feel like they scored the most runs they could score in this series last night in their first game against the Angels. So I just feel like there's not enough in that tank because there is not much power there. And Miguel Cabrera hit a home run last night. That's a very rare occasion, so I feel like we're not going to see that again. And it's like you said, Rogers, Reyes, and Mercer at the bottom of the lineup. It just gives me more confidence in knowing that I'm willing to be okay with spending 7.9K for a pitcher that can possibly get you 5-6 innings and 6 strikeouts.
Yeah, hard to imagine a scenario short of Canning leaving with an injury where he doesn't get you at least the strikeouts. Now he could always get BABIP to death or something like that, but it just seems like the spot is so sweet, and a minus 265 favorite, such a good chance for those extra 4 points on DK. So he's a guy that I'm going to get to a lot. Pretty likely he's my number one exposed pitcher on the slate, and a lot of SP1 lineups with him. Sticking in this mid-tier, we've got some guys like J.A. Happ as a possible pivot off of Canning, or David Price. Zach Gallen is a guy that's getting ownership. I'm not sure I really understand that one outside of the park, but is there anyone, Wainwright as well, is there anyone that's catching your eye outside of Canning in this mid-tier on DK?
I kind of see myself and have been finding myself going to Wainwright. His reverse splits are just absolutely out there. At home, he's a completely different pitcher than he is on the road. A lot of strikeouts in that Chicago Cubs lineup. And, he's a pitcher where you can rely on longevity. And what I mean by that is he's pitching in the hundreds. He's pitched 126 times, and that actually came against the Cubs. So if he's in a rhythm, and he's in there, and you're getting 6 or 7 strikeouts across 6 or 7 innings, I like it at 7,500, and I see myself actually over the field on Wainwright compared to what the projections have.
Yeah, we have a pretty favorable projection for Wainwright. So not someone that was on my radar when I first looked at things this morning, and when I was watching the strategy show with Josh and Laffy. Or I'm sorry, it's Tuesday. Yeah, it was Josh and Laffy. I get my days all mixed up. But you make a good point about they let him go in most starts. 126 pitches is a crazy number. But even if you're getting over to 100 and you're in this mid-tier, and this Cubs lineup is not one of their better ones I've seen, definitely strikeout upside pitcher spot as well in the National League Park. So I like the Wainwright call as well. I did not think I would be there, but the numbers say that might be a spot that you should give a second look at. The other guy I thought I was going to get to a little bit, but not as much as I have been right now, is David Price going up against Tampa. I know this Tampa lineup strikes out quite a bit versus lefties, but the 4.5 implied total I'm seeing in one spot on the Osmo.com lineup builder, which is free. You guys can just go to mlb.lineups.osmo.com to access this for free and get Alex's team totals that he comes up with. He's got them at the Rays. He's got them at almost a 5 implied total, 4.9 right now. So is Price someone that you're looking to play tonight, or is the implied total against him scaring you a bit?
So my initial analysis when I first looked at this slate, I saw myself getting to Price a lot. And I liked Price even more if Pham and Garcia were out of the lineup. However, though, I looked into it a little bit more, and Tampa's really good, surprisingly, against left-hand pitching, especially on the road. And they have a lot of guys with some power on the road against righties as well. And I looked at Brousseau as someone who scares me, and Arnaud scares me as well. But then you also get the tricky Willie Adams, who has good reverse splits against lefties compared to righties. But outside of that, there's a lot of strikeouts as well. So Duffy doesn't scare me. Heredia doesn't scare me. Zunino doesn't scare me. And Nate Lowe doesn't scare me as well. Even Meadows. Meadows is fairly better against righties. So I'm kind of like up in the air because I do like Price at 9K. And I think it's a really good play on DK, especially if you're looking to pivot down from those 10K guys. I mean, it just is, it's one thing or the other. And I'm trying to figure out, do I like him more or do I fear him more against, these righties that are in the Rays lineup?
Yeah, and I mean, Price has been really solid this season. 28% K rate. You look at his xFIP; it's at 365. I mean, just a lot of respectable numbers, just over 1 home run per nine. I kind of didn't realize how good he's been. One of the better walk rates on the slate as well. So he's been efficient. He's been striking guys out. I mean, everything you look for in a DFS pitcher. I guess I'm just a little bit nervous at this price point, and with the implied total against him, it's such a good hitting environment in Boston right now with 85-degree weather and a little bit of wind blowing out to center as well. So while they may not be the biggest names for Tampa, really boom or bust spot I think for Price, and I'm ending up on the side that he's going to boom here. So I'm playing a lot of Price. I'm about 3 times the field right now on DraftKings. We have him in, I think, the low teens. Let's see where he's at in that last ownership update. We'll just do a Control F search for him.
I think he's at 12%.
12%. He went up to actually 15 just now. We just got an ownership update. So if you're a premium member, feel free to go check those out. Obviously, you're a premium member, Chris. So, you've got access to that all the time. But if anybody else wants to get access to that, promo code Live Before Lock gets you 50% off your first month of any Osmo.com premium package. So I'm about a little over double the field on Price right now. And I don't know. We'll see how that shakes out. All right. Anyone else in the mid tier that we're forgetting here, or anyone else that's getting ownership? There's one glaring guy kind of at the top of the ownership projections that we haven't talked about just yet, and it's more of a two-pitcher site play. But I just want to make sure we're not skipping over anyone that we should be talking about. We mentioned Happ, but he's got another high implied total going against him. He is at the implied total against Happ right now is 5.2 runs for the Diamondbacks, and then Roark was another guy that Alex said he had some interest in. It wasn't on DraftKings at 8,300. It was on FanDuel. I think he's at 6,800 in a tough strikeout matchup against the Pirates. Do you want to talk about any of those two guys, or should we move on to the other side of the Roark matchup and talk about Joe Musgrove?
Yeah, I'm not finding myself too much in shares of Roark. I think I have probably like 3 or 4% in the mini max on him. But yeah, I mean, nothing much with him, and Mike Leake I have really no shares of. But yeah, we could talk about Musgrove.
Yeah, so on DraftKings right now, Musgrove is, let's see, last ownership update, he got up to almost 30% ownership. So he's been rising steadily throughout the day. You understand he's just perpetually at like a 5-6K price tag. And in matchups where they may not be perfect, but at least he's usable. So we talked about the implied total against Roark being a little bit worrisome, and same thing for me against Price. Well, you've got a 5.4 implied total here for the Reds against Musgrove. He's on the road. He's going to be popular, but he's allowing me to fit in almost whatever I want because I'm getting to a lot of these mid-tier guys and then punting my other pitcher spot to pay up for a lot of bats. The matchup against Cincinnati is average at best, but I'm playing a lot of Musgrove for 5,100. What say you, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Musgrove is it's like, how do you not play him at that price point? And, Musgrove is interesting because his home run to fly ball rate is a lot less than the average in baseball, and compared to a lot of other pitchers on this slate. He's got 8K per nine, low home run per nine as well. So he's limiting that power to a sense. And I feel like that helps him, especially when we go into a ballpark where we're kind of scared of the ballpark and the weather and things of that nature. So it kind of makes me a little bit more confident in rostering him. But I feel like there are spots in the Cincinnati lineup that is easy for him. And I mean, you obviously have the pitcher spot as well. But it doesn't take much for him tonight to hit value. And I think that's the biggest thing to understand at his price point. So I find myself having him in a lot of lineups because, one, it gives you that flexibility to find those bigger bats. And two, it doesn't take much for him, who's someone who can get strikeouts in this matchup. So, yeah, I like it just like you.
Yeah, I think it becomes more interesting kind of the higher stakes you go up. So in the mini max, if you're playing 150, if you're playing 150, let's say like the $15, something like that, like what Adam does, it would be almost impossible to not get a decent amount of Musgrove, whether or not you're going under the field and getting 15% or over the field and getting 40 or 50%. I think somewhere in that range you should be at. So for an MME play, I mean, Musgrove's a very obvious value. He's an optimizer play, but I think one that's necessary tonight on a slate with a ton of good hitting options and two teams in particular that have huge implied totals, but also a bunch of secondary teams that offer value and good implied totals as well.
Mm-hmm.
If you're so you said before the show that you were playing like a qualifier. Now we're talking about maybe Musgrove getting up into like the 35, 40, 50% ownership range. I think that's a spot where I would not necessarily take Cincinnati bats against him, although I think that's an okay strategy. But that might be a spot where I'd be looking to get away from him and just go with the pure pivot, a guy like Smiley, or another guy that I was getting to just a little bit of was Mike Montgomery, just dirt cheap at 4,800, and going up against the Blue Jays. So what do you think about? Would you be looking to pivot off of him in sort of a single entry 3 max type tournament where his ownership might even be higher? Musgrove, I'm talking about.
So typically in this type of situation, what I do is if I play Musgrove in a higher stake type of situation, I will look for another either mid or higher stake tournament, and I will take that team against Musgrove to hedge myself. Just because I feel like it's not only a safe play, but it gives you leverage. With Musgrove, though, his 5,100 price point, I couldn't see myself pivoting to really anyone outside of that. Someone who's interesting, and I know it's probably crazy to say this, but is Kyle Freeland, solely based on the fact that this lineup for the Dodgers is not as appealing as I originally thought it would be. And Max Muncy out of the lineup as well just doesn't make me like LA as much as I did maybe prior 3 hours ago. Freeland's not anyone to talk about, but he did get 18 points his last game, at Washington against a team who's very good against lefties as well at home. So, but I mean, if we're going to talk pivot, maybe I would on a rare chance pivot to Freeland in a weird situation. But outside of that, I would just pay up and go either Smiley or pay up even more and just focus on those 7K guys, which I feel like is the sweet spot for the night.
So that's an interesting strategy you talk about with Freeland, and especially in like a qualifier or like high stakes single entry or something like that, because not only are you getting the pivot off of Musgrove, so you're automatically going to have a different lineup at one of your pitcher spots, and it's not completely unlikely that Freeland outscores Musgrove. Musgrove could go negative and Freeland could get you 8 points. But also, if he has a decent start here, the reason a lot of people are going to Musgrove is to jam in the Dodgers bats. So you're kind of getting double leverage if you do make that pivot. So I think that's a really interesting move, a really ballsy move for someone to take in a large field GPP or a small field GPP with even more concentrated ownership if you're getting a bunch of sharks in there that realize that Musgrove is the best value on the slate. So that would be...
it's probably the best lineup that Kyle Freeland could possibly face. I mean, there's no Kiki Hernandez.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Taylor's hurt, which are both good batters against lefties. I mean, in this line, inside this lineup, I mean, you have White, who's, in my opinion, is just there's no power there. And Adam made a great point. Tyler White and Negron are more than likely probably going to get subbed out after Freeland leaves the mound. So, but we'll go into this more later. But I mean, you have the 9-hole in the pitcher. You have Russell Martin. There's no power. Negron, there's no power. And White, there's no power. And that's interesting. And you have a cheap pitcher who, if he's facing 4 guys right there who, possibly can, be in his favor, maybe he does hit value, and maybe it's just someone who you can throw him in a mini max or you can throw him in a tournament where you're leveraging yourself against the field.
Yeah, those Dodgers Adam brought up a really good point about the possible pinch hit risks there, especially for the guys that are the good value plays that are going to pop in optimizers if you're making 150. Once we talked about hitters and we talk about the Dodgers, I mean, everyone knows they're a good play, but the question is, can you handle if 1 or 2 of your guys gets pinch hit for and possibly as a 0 or like even a 3 on DraftKings after 2 at bats? You're missing out on so much opportunity whereas most guys are projected to get at least 4 at bats. That's huge if someone gets taken out after 2 or even 3 at bats, especially batting at the end of the order. There, you only have so many opportunities, anyways. All right, so let's see. Are we missing anyone? Odorizzi was someone we got requests to talk about in chat, in the YouTube chat, and then a guy that I'm playing actually a good amount of is Drew Smiley. I think he can get strikeouts here. Super scary, even against the Giants. They actually have been striking out. I think they're top half in the MLB versus lefties on the season in K percentage. So I got to actually a good amount of Smiley as his ownership dropped. Was not going to get anywhere near 45% or whatever we had him at, 40+% earlier. They basically cut that in half, and now I think that I could get to a little bit of Drew Smiley. He's below Musgrove, and he might be another guy I would pivot to off of him in tournaments if I'm looking to do that thing. What do you think about Smiley here?
Honestly, I do like the matchup, but and also an interesting kind of playing devil's advocate. San Francisco actually has been good as of late with their offense. Has been scoring runs with a little bit of power. And I know it's weird to say that because there's really not much power to find in that lineup. But I mean, they've been on a little bit of a streak offensively. And Smiley, I mean, he just had a really good game against Pittsburgh, against a team that doesn't strike out a lot, who is stingy at the plate. He threw 8 Ks, had a great game, 23 fantasy points on DK. But this matchup is just, honestly, the ballpark, the weather, I feel like this is a let-me-down spot for a lot of Smiley owners tonight, and that's just in my opinion.
No, I mean, I don't think that's a bad one. I don't think he's a particularly good pitcher anyways. So, I don't think he's more likely to have good starts than any other of these garbage guys in this slate. So, just playing the odds there. I mean, yeah, there's certainly reasons to take hitters against Smiley, not only not play Smiley, but I actually got to a little bit of San Francisco, mostly Pilar batting 5th for 3,600. Didn't get to a ton of stacks against Smiley just because there's other teams that project a little bit better, and I'm just paying way down for pitching tonight. But yeah, I get your hesitance here with Smiley. I definitely don't fault you for that, but getting to a bunch of them at 6K on DraftKings. Anything on Odorizzi, and then we'll do dong picks and then talk about hitters here.
Yeah, I'm glad someone brought up Odorizzi because I looked into it. Because obviously it's the Marlins. You want to look into that matchup. It's not necessarily the matchup that scares me. It's the fact that Odorizzi's having a real problem with getting into full counts, and his pitch count is getting high. And what that is, what's that allowing that to do is it's only allowing to last him 4 or 5 innings in a game. So you're not getting that longevity that you want. And Miami, for some reason, they've just been really annoying as of late. I mean, you could, even yesterday, there was a lot of people in the field on Merrill Kelly, got rocked around. Seems they've been doing that lately, especially when it's pitchers that we want to focus on and target them. But I just don't trust Odorizzi right now with his longevity in the game, and the strikeouts aren't necessarily there. So for me, I don't think I'll find myself having a lot of shares of Odorizzi.
Yeah, I mean, he's had games with strikeouts, but I guess the run prevention has been killing him lately over his last 7 starts. If you just look at his DraftKings scores, only 1 start that he reached 18 points, none that he reached 20, obviously, and then 3 starts he was in the negative. So the run prevention's been tough. It looks like they've been limiting his pitches a little bit more. He hasn't been reaching 100 pitches very often. So priced up at 9,400, like, you need a really quality start here. And I know the Marlins are a good opponent for that, but I don't think he's like some slam dunk play, or I don't think I would be getting to him in a cash game on DraftKings. I would be getting to Canning. I mean, maybe you could go Odorizzi Canning and try to lock up your 40 DK points or whatever. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility, but I might even look to a guy like, I don't even know, Wainwright or David Price maybe as my SP1 or SP2 on DraftKings.
Right.
All right, let's talk about home run picks here. I don't think we got one last night. You took Hunter Renfroe, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I did, and I was all over San Diego. And of course, the one guy that I choose doesn't end up hitting the home run, which he actually went 0 for 5, I think, which was really unfortunate.
Did he? He went 0 for 5.
I think he did. I think he was an 0 for at the plate last night, if I'm not mistaken, which was kind of shocking. I think he was the only one on the team
Okay.
that didn't do anything.
I thought Machado homered, or someone said he was close to homering or something. I don't know, but
Machado had a good game. Yeah, I think he had a triple. I think he scored like 20 DK points. I know Tatis hit a home run. Urias surprisingly hit a home run. Hosmer had 2 home runs. Reyes had a home run. I mean, that lineup, they didn't score all the runs in the world, but they maximized their points for sure.
yeah, for sure. They ended up being okay, and actually David Hess ended up being okay as well. So let's see. We're gonna take a look at the home run picks here right now. No one got one last night. It looks like I took Otani. Emac took Puig, his cover boy, in his article yesterday. Chris bravely, the other Chris took Mike Trout, and then Josh took Manny Machado. You said he took Renfro. So no one darn last night. No ground was made up. But if you have someone in the queue that you want to take as your home run pick tonight, who would it be, Chris?
I always go first, man. I feel like I need to switch things up because
All
I
right.
need to get on the board. So I'm gonna go ahead and give you the honors.
All right, cool. All right. So I usually just take someone that I'm heavily exposed to. So I'm gonna take a look at my exposures here and see. Looks like the first non-Coors bat is Mike Trout. I am not doing that. Why don't you give me Bryce Harper? I like Bryce Harper quite a bit. I like the Phillies. They're sneaking up for me.
Man. Taking my that was my guy.
Was it really?
Yeah, man. So I'm gonna stick with the Phillies as well,
All right.
and I'm gonna go Rhys Hoskins.
Okay, that's also a very good pick. Rhys Hoskins. All right, so Josh, Emac, Chris Spags, if you guys are in chat, feel free to hit us up with your picks or put them in the sheet here. You guys are shared on the Google Doc, so you can do that by yourselves while we continue to talk about hitters here. All right, so last time we were on, Chris, last Tuesday it was, you talked about going all in on a team, and we haven't talked about hitters really. I mean, generally we have, but we didn't really talk before the show. It sounds like you're heavy on the Yankees. Is this going to be a night where you kind of go all in on a certain team here?
Yeah, Yankees not for me.
Really?
Yeah. No. Yankees, I like them. I do have some of them, but tonight is a night where I'm all in on the Philadelphia Phillies.
Whoa! All right. Cool. I mean, I like that. I like that. So let's hear it. Tell people why.
It's a really good spot. And I mean, ballpark weather obviously played a huge factor. But, Beatty, way better at home. He's now getting a huge ballpark downgrade, facing a team that has power up and down the lineup. He's got a 17.1 home run fly ball rate, and he's also giving up 1.7 home run per 9. And he's also walking almost 5 per 9. So I like also the Phillies because they're kind of going underlooked from what I've seen in projections, and I don't know if that still stands true. But on the Osmo Top Stack tool, for those of you who are members, the last time I checked, it was updated 24 minutes ago. And the DK ownership has the Phillies nowhere to be found at 4.6%, with a surprising 2.9% opportunity to be the top stack. And, I actually like this. The numbers work in my favor. Philadelphia is a great team at home with a lot of power. They have a 5.6 run implied total. I just feel like they're a team that's going underlooked, and I feel like they're in a great matchup tonight. So I'm way over the field with the Philadelphia Phillies.
I like the Phillies. I think they're a pretty good value tonight. I like Bryce. I like your home run pick, Rhys Hoskins. So I'll be right there on the Phillies. They're not my number one pick, but if you're going out on a limb and saying that they're your number one, I don't think you've got to worry on this slate as far as being contrarian. So I like the call. Always a off the board call with you. So I thought
It's close between, Texas is making a run for the money too right now and almost being the top stack for me. But Phillies, then Rangers.
Okay, so do you not like the Yankees then? Are you kind of avoiding Coors Field, or are you just making a major stand here? I mean, it's hard not to like those spots, but are you looking to fade those intentionally? Is there something you're seeing there, or just like the Phillies a little bit more?
Um, ye- so I like the Yankees. Don't get me wrong. It's not that I don't like them. It's just the fact that their price points have me shifting to another team, and because that's that little bit of separation gives me the two pitchers that I want. It seems like in most of my stacks. But Diamondbacks are third on my list. So in that game on the opposite side, I really like the Diamondbacks tonight, and I really like Carson Kelly at 4.1. Love Yasmani Tomas at 3.7, and then sprinkling the other guys. But the thing with the Yankees is maybe I'm just playing devil's advocate here, but I've kind of been screwed over from them before. But Edwin Encarnacion and Luke Voigt, they take away me putting them both together in on DraftKings, and I kind of hate that because if I was good to play that stack, I would love to have both of them in the lineup. But DJ LeMahieu's not in the lineup, and I would really like to see him in there. Um, Judge needs to do something for me. He had a horrible weekend in Fenway. His mechanics seem a little bit off. He's not swinging the same, kind of a weaker swing from what they've been saying. So yeah, I'm not getting to them maybe as much as I should, and maybe I'm just overlooking it. But I like other teams tonight and other matchups compared to the Yankees.
Fair enough. I mean, and for what it's worth, the Yankees aren't my number one stack either. They're going to be probably in the top three for me. I would say they come in the top three.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the thing about the Voight and Encarnacion thing, that is a little bit annoying. I mean, it seems like no matter what, you always, like, at least I always feel like I choose the wrong one, the one that double dongs, and the other one hits a double, and that's it. So a little bit annoying with the positions there. I also agree on LeMahieu not being in the lineup. I mean, you don't think of LeMahieu as a great DFS player, but he's a guy who gets on base all the time, and for stacking, he's a lot of the time people think like he's overpriced as well. So he's shown a little bit of power this season, and he's like the perfect guy to stack up because he's going to get you a different lineup, even with a stack that is a little bit chalky, as the Yankees often are.
Right.
So not a perfect lineup I'm seeing here, but still a massive implied total here for the Yankees. They're getting ownership. Right now we have them as going a little undervalued on the top stack tool, and that's just because they're still priced up, even though is it Talkman and then Higashioka are also they're not free or anything like you're seeing with some of these other stacks. These secondary pieces are super cheap.
Right.
So I get it on the Yankees. I still hard for me to not follow this implied total 7.2 runs. You mentioned Texas, and then we'll talk about Coors Field. Texas 6.3 implied total against Mike Leake. Laffy talked about the big splits for Leake as far as giving up home runs. I think he's given up 25 on the season, 20 on the road, and then just 5 when he's pitching in Seattle. A couple weeks ago, he almost had that, I can't remember if it was a perfect game or no hitter going into the ninth. So just weird stuff happens sometimes in baseball, but you obviously don't see that happening tonight. And Texas looks like really good value here. So what do you got on Texas here?
Yeah, Texas does have a lot of good value. Leake's a completely different pitcher on the road. He's going to be going into a huge ballpark downgrade. Texas is far better at home than they are on the road as well. And I think the thing is that Leake gives up a lot of bombs. And for me, I like to target pitchers who do give up a lot of bombs. He's given up 25 on the year. I think it's top 5 in the league. He's got a 18% fly ball home run rate ratio right now, which is completely above the average in MLB. And for me, I mean, there's some bats here that I just can't pass up. If you look at the Rangers lineup and their price points, I love Mazzara at 4,200. Andrews is 4,000. Choi at the top of the order, 4,400. Odor, who's been having some power as of late, even more, he's starting to get it together at the plate. He's only 4,100. So, the lefties specifically is where I want to target against Leake. And once again, you look at the Osmo top stack tool and you look at the ownership here. I mean, Texas is the 5th or 6th team owned. Actually, they're above Colorado believe it or not. But however, though, I mean, they're a team that I think that has a lot of opportunity tonight. They have a high run implied total. I think the last time I checked, it's now 6.2. So yeah, I love this matchup against League.
Yeah, up to 6.3 even on the Osmo lineups page. So Alex seems to like them here. I mean, it's just really good value if you look at all these guys. Chu at 4,400, Andrews 4K. I really love that. Mazzara 42, Odor 41. One of the better plays overall, I think, on the slate. He projects really, really well here against League. So he's one of the guys that I had highlighted as kind of a cash play in my my cheat sheets earlier today, which are of course free. They're usually somewhere on the homepage. We got them for DraftKings FanDuel Yahoo along with all the other stuff. Then if you want to kind of take the next step, Deep Dive is behind the paywall. That is of course written by Adam and Lofty. They alternate days and just really, really sound analysis on the slate, especially for pitching, which is what we believe to be the most important part of most slates because they affect everything.
Yeah.
All right, so I agree with Texas here. Really awesome value. So I'm getting to a bunch of their hitters. Coors Field. Let's talk about Coors here. First time we've really talked about them. 45 minutes into the show, but we've got an 8.3 implied total on the Osmo lineups page right now for the Los Angeles Dodgers. And then the Rockies not too far behind, 6.7, but one of the higher totals on the slate, right behind the Yankees. What do you think about the Dodgers here? And what about the pinch hitting situation that we heard on the deeper dive?
Yeah, I mean, how could you not like a team that has over an 8 run implied total in Coors, in hot weather, wind blowing out? I mean, it's just the recipe for success, right? It's just, obviously a lot of people are going to go to them, and obviously I'm going to have a little bit of shares, but I'm just not too excited about this lineup as I would be maybe if they had other guys in it. And specifically, I mean, I don't like Martin, Negron, Tyler White, and even Corey Seager against the lefties. So those are 4 guys right there, and you got the pitcher spot. So I mean, you really only have 4 guys to work with because Alex made a great point earlier on the deeper dive, in that Tyler White and Negron will both more than likely potentially get substituted mid-game for different players. And I mean, if you only get 2 at bats from two of your guys on your team that you rostered, that can hurt you tremendously, especially for guys that need probably all 4 at bats in a game because they don't have power, because they don't do much at the plate. So any at bat is key, and you might not get that from those 2 guys.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's tough for me because the Dodgers are by far grading out as the best stack for me. Really not even close. And you get these nice value guys, but they're pinch hit risks. So I'm hoping to get at least 3 at bats out of White and Negron here. I don't know how possible that is. But you really need them both to do something in their first 2 at bats. So that's kind of frustrating, and it could kill a stack. So hopefully I get them more as like 4-man stacks and maybe only have 1 out of the 2 of those guys in most of my stacks on DraftKings especially. But I just love the Dodgers here. Freeland, he's had 1 good start. He's been an absolute disaster for the whole season. Maybe he's turned it around. He went down to the minors for a little while, and we've seen him be a good pitcher as recently as 8 months ago, 9 months ago, end of last season. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that he's gone back to his normal self. I have no clue what was going on with him earlier, if he's still terrible, but the Vegas implied total says that he still is terrible, and the Dodgers are really awesome, even with this somewhat of a watered-down lineup. So pinch hit risks and all, I mean, the Dodgers will be my number 1 stack. Colorado is going to be pretty close behind them. I think they're probably going to end up in the 2 or 3 spot for me. And it kind of goes without saying. I mean, you know the guys you're looking to target here on Colorado. It's Story, Arenado, 2 of my favorite plays in the entire board. And then Ian Desmond in the 5 spot. Chris Iannetta, I also like at catcher. He's batting 8th and he's 4K, but I think he is worth it tonight, especially if you're looking to stack up Colorado here.
Can't argue with that.
Any other stacks we're looking at here is kind of in the top tier. I see the Angels with a 6.3 implied total against Verhagen here. You've got pretty good implied totals in the Toronto KC game, so that's probably more a game you're looking for value. You talked about the Philly stack, and I agreed with you on that for sure. Who's kind of your favorite leverage stack? We talked about Musgrove being chalky. Other guys that are getting popularity in the mid tier are like Wainwright, Odorizzi. If you wanted to stack up the Marlins, there's one more I think I'm missing here. Oh, Drew Smiley against the Giants. Which out of those teams where you could gain a big edge on the field is the most appealing to you tonight?
Oof. And I would probably say San Fran against Smiley. I mean, because he is one of the highest owned pitchers, and a lot of people are going to gravitate to him because of his price point and because of the potential matchup. But I think you can leverage yourself big time. And with that leverage, that also allows you to really get some premier pitchers and maybe some expensive one-off bats.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. I think my favorite here would probably be the Reds, but it is a pretty close call between some of these teams that can give you some pretty good leverage. So I think those would be my top two: Giants and then the Reds against Musgrove. You're getting 20+% ownership on both Smiley and Musgrove for those stacks, and that could really flip the slate. So stacking against a cheap chalk pitcher is a pretty good strategy most of the time because they get so much ownership and they're going to give you a completely different lineup construction than the people who play them. So it's not like you're getting the massive 50% chalk where you almost have to take some leverage stacks against them, but I think it's something that you should at least be considering, or at least be taking some one-offs like Puig against Musgrove, or I know Buster he's completely lost his power, but 3,700 he grades out actually pretty well for us. And then I also mentioned I like Pilar against Smiley here.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I don't think you can go around there.
Here's a game that we haven't really talked about much at all, but the Braves and the Nats. Julio Teheran against Eric Fede, and we've got some good implied totals here. 6 for the Braves, 5.7 for the Nats. This is one I don't have much exposure to at all, and I guess that's because Washington's getting some ownership, and the projections don't agree as much as far as them being a great chance to be the top stack. But I certainly understand why people would want to play the Nats here. They look a little underpriced. 4,300 for Soto really sticks out, and then I'm not sure about the ownership on the Braves outside of Albies at 4,300. I kind of get that. But is there anything in this game that you think is worth mentioning?
I didn't really dive too much into this game, and I think I don't know if that's a mistake or not, but I just found myself just liking other matchups specifically. Freaky, he's only given up one home run per 9. Doesn't really strike out a lot, but I just have no interest there. Maybe I like McCann in the catcher spot because he's a little cheap, a little bit of power there, going up against a righty, and he's in the 5 hole, so I kind of like that. But I'm not on the Braves as maybe something tells me I should be. I mean, they have a 5.6 run implied total. The bottom portion, on that lineup is fairly cheap, especially on DK and FanDuel. So I mean, you could do a lot there. But I mean, outside of that, I don't find myself going here.
Yeah, I think there's just better spots for similar price ranges, and like in my opinion, I don't think the Yankees or the Dodgers ownership is high enough where I think I have to be getting off of them here. So that's kind of where I'm planting my flag tonight. And if it doesn't work out, I'll just move on to the next slate. Let's see here. Got my template downloaded on DK. Lineup's already uploaded onto FanDuel. Let's see, anything going on in chat here, or do we have any other stacks we want to talk about? Red Sox going completely overlooked, but there's just a bunch of other spots. On the other side of that Texas game, you've got the Mariners with a 6 implied total against Ariel Jurado. Stop me if I'm mentioning a team that you want to talk about here. Reed Foley, Royals against Reed Foley, Montgomery going up against Toronto, and then, man, I feel like we've kind of covered the top stacks here. Have you looked into the Angels at a 6.3 implied total against Verhagen here?
I didn't. And And once again, I think that's just because there's other matchups that I just find myself going to that I think are in better spots. But I don't find anything wrong with it. I feel like this is a probably better situation for them to score runs rather than Zimmerman last night. So yeah, I don't see anything bad about it at all.
Yeah, I don't either. It's like I'm getting so much FOMO here, fear of missing out, just because there's so many good teams in good spots, and I'm kind of going to the chalkier teams, but the teams that I think are going a little bit underowned in the Dodgers, Rockies, and then the Yankees. Are you targeting any specific one-offs? We usually don't talk about one-offs. We talk about stacks quite a bit on this show. But is there someone as a one-off who maybe is on a team that you're not looking to stack up, but a guy that really sticks out here on this slate? Or maybe just list off a couple of them if you have them.
Not necessarily. I find myself stacking like 5-2-1 tonight or 4-3-1 a lot. So I don't see too many times where I'm going like 5-1-1 or 4-2-1-1 and things like that. But guys who I think that are in good spots that if you're looking for one-offs, I think Carson Kelly for the Diamondbacks at the catcher spot at 4,100, I feel like is a great spot if you're looking for a one-off and it's in the catcher position. I think Arenado, if you're not stacking Colorado, is in a great spot. Lefty at home, I mean, he thrives there in that type of situation. And I think also Kettle Marte, outfielder, is someone else who I find in my crunches with like another Diamondback that keeps showing up. So yeah, I think those guys, and I mean there are a lot of guys tonight I think that have great opportunities to be one-off. Just to name those, some of them specifically.
Yeah, like the couple of Arizona bats you mentioned, Kelly and Ketel Marte. I know they're kind of expensive, but Hap is allowing 2 home runs per 9 on the season, under 20% K rate. He just has not really turned it around all season. An xFIP approaching 4.81 right now for Hap, and he's actually going to get some attention here because he's 7,300 and a huge favorite. But I like taking some bats against him, so I think I'm definitely with you on that call. Man, Ryan O'Hearn, 2,800 keeps sticking out like a sore thumb here. He's 2,800, but he's been really, really bad. I guess if you're looking for like a cash game play, is that someone you would go to? Because he was someone that was popping up for me on the projections earlier. But is that someone you'd be looking?
I think I got 1%.
1%? Yeah, that's probably
one lineup out of 150.
Yeah, so he's someone who he had a bunch of power, or I guess he has a bunch of power, but hard to have power when you can't really hit the ball.
Yeah.
So that's sort of his issue. And then we've got another super cheap guy in Travis Shaw batting 7th for 2,200 on DK. I mean, I guess if I had to choose between those two guys, if I was taking one for cash, I would probably lean towards Shaw, but a couple of really tough options that are going to be used in cash games tonight, especially if you're using an optimizer and just going off projections. Yasmani Tomas also back in the MLB. I don't know if you saw that for your Diamondbacks. I'm sure you're playing a little bit of him if you're getting to some Diamondbacks bats as well.
Yeah, I have a little bit of Yasmani, and also on FanDuel as well, where he's really cheaply priced.
Nice. Okay, who is Makad hasn't asked us this, but Makad in chat always asks us for a Paul Blackburn of the night. That's just a bad pitcher who could end up on the tournament winning lineup. So if you had to choose a bad pitcher, maybe at low-ish ownership or moderate ownership on any site that could be in the tournament winning lineup, who would you choose tonight?
I think if you're looking for a horrible pitcher on tonight's, it's an interesting question. Maybe Montgomery, maybe Gerardo. I think Gerardo is an interesting spot, 5,700. Seattle strikes out a ton. Obviously, he's cheap. Maybe there's strikeout potential there. I mean, same thing with Freeland. These guys aren't high K rate guys, but there are some guys in the lineup where they can, pick on and maybe get a few lucky strikeouts where they help you hit value. So yeah, I guess that's what I would say.
Yeah, I mean, so I was thinking of Montgomery, but you make a good point on Gerardo. He actually does have strikeout upside. We've seen it in recent starts. And of course, he's been really inconsistent because he's not a very good pitcher. But if you can get strikeouts, you're a pretty good candidate for the old Paul Blackburn of the night. So I like that call. Montgomery was going to be my guy, but either way, it's slim pickings because if we're not talking about Musgrove, who's just very obviously underpriced at 5,100 on DK, the options below him are really, really ugly. So if you want to tell the people once again, what's kind of your biggest fade for the day, and then or what's kind of your biggest stand, and then what's kind of your biggest fade on the day?
I think my biggest stand is Philadelphia Phillies will be one of the, if not the highest scoring lineup tonight. Yeah, so that's my take. And I also think Texas as well. I think one of my fades tonight, and I mean, hey, someone has to do it, but I don't like the Dodgers as much as a lot of other people do. I do like Arenado tonight, but I just don't like the Dodgers as much as maybe I should. And I think maybe it's the actual right fade tonight.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm on the other side of that. But, I mean, it worked out last night. Were you on the Dodgers last night at all?
Very little, actually. I didn't like the matchup last night either. So I was right last night. I was big on San Diego last night. That was my top stack, and it paid off.
I mean, fair enough. We see it happen in baseball all the time. So I think, you don't even have to full stack the Dodgers either. And just because you're not playing them as main stacks doesn't mean that you couldn't get some one-offs or two-mans like Bellinger and Pollock or someone like that. Because
that's a good point. I would say if that's the case, I like Pollock and I like a little bit of Turner. But outside of that, I'm not really much of a fan.
Dude, Turner projects so well as I've seen someone project on our project, like from a value perspective, for a guy that's, I think he's 5,400. Yeah, 5,400 right now. He's got one of the top value grades on the entire site, for DraftKings at least. So I was a little bit surprised to see that. I like to sort by value and see just who are the top guys, who are the guys that are going to pop in optimizers, and see if I should, if those are guys that I should be ending up on. We got our final ownership update. Looking at FanDuel right now, for pitcher, it looks like a lot of Griffin Canning. He's the only pitcher right now above 20%. That is not really a surprise. Scrolling down here in this next tier of ownership, it looks like Odorizzi, Syndergaard, Darvish. Oh, really? Darvish? I haven't really we haven't really talked about him, but all those guys in double digits right now, and then just a smattering of everyone else after that. So Canning the clear chalk. On Yahoo, it looks like same sort of thing, but Smiley's up there, Syndergaard's up there. He's more affordable. He's under $50 on Yahoo, so that makes sense. Nothing crazy that I'm seeing there. And on DraftKings, right now we've got Canning and Musgrove at the exact same ownership. The only two guys on the slate above 30% right now. So I would imagine it's going to be a popular pairing, but it's also going to be a pairing that I have quite a bit of because it's all about those Dodgers tonight for me. Looking at my exposures right now, I have 4 Dodgers at 39% or more right now on my DraftKings lineups. So we'll see. Not all in on the Dodgers, but as close to all in as I get on a slate this big. So I'm seeing a lot of Phillies pop up in my lineups. I like the look of that. Cesar Hernandez, really. He's one of my highest exposed Phillies. Nothing crazy that I'm seeing. Mike Montgomery.
What happened with Cesar Hernandez?
What's that?
What happened with Cesar Hernandez?
I just got a bunch of him.
Okay.
Like he's 1% owned. I got 12%. So,
well, I gotta I really like the Phillies and I like Cesar Hernandez tonight. So
yeah, I'll take a Cesar Hernandez 3-run homer or something like that.
Big tournaments tonight, man. Tonight's a big night.
Yeah. So if you want to tell people, you're playing the big Q tonight on DraftKings.
Yeah, man. I'm hoping by the end of the night I'll be in Chicago in a couple weeks at the live finals. So 67 people. I won a couple satellites into the 3190, and top 4 people win a seat to the World Fantasy Baseball Championship. So already got my lineup in. I've had my lineup in since midday today, and I haven't changed it. And I'm sticking with two teams that I feel are in the best spot for tonight.
Well, nice. I'll be rooting for you to take that down. That's the qualifier sweat is a tough one with it being, we talk about the payout structures and stuff in DFS being like all or nothing, but when it's literally just one ticket in a qualifier, no matter how big it is, it truly is almost all or nothing. So,
Yeah.
man, that's gonna be fun. I hope to see you take it down though. We'll be sweating together in the premium Slack. So if you guys want to get in on that, promo code live before lock is how you get 50% off your first month of Awesemo.com premium packages. With that, you get access to, again, the premium Slack, projections from the number one player in the world, Awesemo himself, ownership projections as well, best in the industry, and then premium articles, and, of course, all the free content from all of us here. So we've also got golf content if you guys want to check that out for this week. There's like every sport going on. There's WNBA.
Dude, let me just say, I did tennis yesterday. Listen, I know it sounds horrible.
How'd it go?
So I did a $180, 100 something people. First place was 5,000. My first 5 players won. So my first 5 matches, they took it down. I'm in first place for 5,000. All I need is my last person, who is my best person, like they were the highest seed, to go ahead and just take down the match, and they lost in straight sets.
Oh,
and
God.
I still cashed, but still, it was very tilting to say the least.
That's brutal, man. Are tennis upsets pretty popular? Like big upsets like that? Is it more like baseball and hockey with the variance?
Yeah, it's unreal, the variance in that sport.
Okay.
But it's interesting. I mean, you dabble in it because you just want to see if there's weak players and how they play. So I took my chances. I mean, I cashed, not complaining, but it was definitely interesting.
I think, yeah. I mean, we've got so many sports that I don't know about that we have projections for, like MMA and PGA. Although that's getting to be a pretty big sport. MMA is as well. But we've got tennis projections. We've got did I mention WNBA from Alex himself? So we've just got it all here. So if you guys want to take the next step and join, again, promo code live before lock is how you kind of do that.
So I'm in this that queue. I'm running 5 Phillies as a stack.
How's the ownership looking?
I mean, they're almost single. They're single digit. They're 9 or 10%.
Nice.
So yeah, so nothing too much. So not too much going on there.
No, I mean you'll be in a really awesome spot if they have
Drew Smiley's 25%, so that's someone you want to, obviously not fare well in.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I want him to fare well, but for your sake, I hope he gets blown up. And if he does, I can still win with the rest of mine.
Yankees are huge, highly owned.
Are they really?
Oh yeah. In this qualifier, 29% Aaron Judge, 20% Hicks, 21% Torres, 17 Encarnacion. I mean, that's 67 people, so that's a high percentage.
Right. I mean, so everyone's got such a big pull on ownership in a small tournament like that. So 67 people, you just got to finish first. Easy game right there.
Oh, top 4.
Oh, it's the mega qualifier.
Yeah, so there's 4 tickets out of 67 people, so the top 4 go to Chicago.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I'm thinking of just like the classic qualifier. I forget they run those mega
Yeah,
queues.
no, this is a mega. And I won tickets to this, so it's like I'm in for $100. This is a $3,100 entry.
Hell yeah, man. Well,
Yeah.
that's even more exciting. A little bit more fun than sweating out the just the one spot for 67 people. Because if the one guy has, let's say,
Oh yeah, for sure. I wouldn't play it. I don't think if it was like that, because that's tough, man.
Oh, it's really rough. Like the one guy has whatever the Met stack that goes nuts. Like it's just over, So at least you got 4 spots to work with. And,
yeah, 4 spots to work with.
Yeah, man, I'm excited. So I'll be checking in on that as the slate goes on, as I'm watching my Bachelorette season finale tonight. I'm sure you'll be doing the same, but you already know what happens, so we don't need spoilers. But I'm pretty excited to watch it. Huh?
No spoilers, man. No spoilers.
It'll be a good one, I think.
We'll see what happens. It's going to be very interesting, to say the least.
You got anything else going on for the rest of the week as far as content coming out?
Yeah, I'm gonna have a couple articles up. And I mean, tonight just doing this sweat. And yeah, man. Might go see the Padres play in LA this weekend. Still debating that.
Nice.
But yeah.
See your boy
And
Ross Stripling?
update on Thor. I got a text message not too long ago with a laughing emoji saying "We shall see" about Thor coming to the Padres. My last question was, "Is it almost done?" And that was the response I got.
So maybe, maybe not, but you had it first if he does go there. So we'll all remember that.
Hey, I got people in high places in the Padres organization, so we'll
That's
see what
what
happens.
that's what I like to hear. All right,
Yeah.
guys. Thanks for tuning in, and we will be back next Tuesday. Tomorrow morning, it will be Adam and Josh taking you through all the games on the slate. I'm assuming we'll have a little bit of a split slate as we do on most Wednesdays. So thanks for joining. Feel free to hit the like button on the way out as it will help us. And check out all the content on the site, free and premium. Good luck tonight, guys.